If this military is so racist, if our ranks are full of extremists, who was in charge over the last couple decades?
Yeah.
Where have you been? All those racist platoon leaders and staff sergeants that you've been running around allowed to be skinheads and Ku Klux Klan inside the military. What you been doing about that? They were, like they've been doing for decades, kowtowing to their political handlers who are more interested in social justice or whatever new ism is involved. And so they're running around talking about white rage and studying Ibram X. Kendi about a problem they know doesn't exist.
All right, so a study carried out by the Institute for Defense Analyses, or the IDA, often cited by right-wingers, including Pete Hegseth, who you just saw, has been debunked. On January 4th of this year, Hegseth said on Fox News that this study proved that there is not an issue with growing extremism within the U.S. military. Says the Pentagon-funded report to which Hegseth referred said there was no evidence the number of violent extremists in the military was disproportionate to extremists in the general population. They knew this was a sham, Hegseth said, referring to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and other military leaders. Then they do the study, which confirms what we all know. So Hegseth is a former National Guardsman who, by the way, was flagged as a potential insider threat for his white supremacist tattoo. He surprisingly does not see the importance of rooting out white supremacy or extremism in the ranks. But the truth is that this report substantially undercounted the number of military service members and veterans who took part in the January 6th insurrection, according to the Associated Press. Here's what they said. Ordered by Austin after the January 6th insurrection, the IDA research was published quietly just before Christmas 2023, nearly 18 months late and with no announcement. Its key recommendation was the DoD should not overreact and draw too large of a target in its anti-extremism efforts, despite Austin's promise to attack the problem head-on in the wake of January 6th. However, the data that the IDA was using was outdated, producing misleading analyses. It says the IDA's report states that its research was conducted from June 2021 through June 2022. By June 2022, the number of active or former military members arrested had grown by nearly 50%. When IDA's report was published a year and a half later, in December of 2023, 209 people with military backgrounds who attended the insurrection had been arrested, or 15.2% of all arrests. We're going to talk more about the number of arrests and how it's grown. But Sharon, what do you have to say about all of this as far as, there are people who were incentivized to produce a certain result, and this is what we got. And now that incentivized result that we were given was touted all over right-wing media as like, oh no, the military is fine. We don't have all of these extremists there. It's fine. Nothing needs to be done about it. What do you have to say about that?
We live in a time, sadly, where you can pick and choose your facts. We all thought Kellyanne Conway was bonkers when she coined the phrase alternative facts. She was right. And now we have to, it's not just like, landing, hitching a ride on a hail bop and headed to the moon. Now it's much more difficult, as you mentioned previously, to determine who's right and who's wrong. I get all kinds of things while I'm on these lists in my email account daily that make me go, huh? I can see why people get hoodwinked. I can see why seniors, mostly that population, has money stolen from them. I get it, okay? I think this is a sick, twisted way to do business. And ultimately, it's so wrong, it's hurtful to the country, and it makes us less safe. It really makes us less safe.
Yeah. Yeah, any kind of extremism, especially a racially motivated extremism, is not great, especially with people who have military training, and they've seen things that might make
Scary.
them, more mentally and psychologically unstable. So before the discussion, I mentioned that 15.2% of these people had been arrested. That number of arrests has grown to 18% since then. More than 480 people with military backgrounds were accused of ideologically violent-driven extremist crimes from 2017 to 2023, including the more than 230 arrested in connection with the January 6th insurrection, according to data collected and analyzed by START, the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism. So although this might seem like not that crazy of a number, an AP investigation found that plots involving people with military backgrounds were more likely to involve mass casualties. So it's not great. And data suggests that active service members and veterans are being radicalized at a faster rate than people without military training. This study solely focused on extremism that we witnessed on January 6th. However, some active duty personnel were simply unable to make it to the insurrection. Here it says one complaint filed to the DoD Inspector General's whistleblower hotline on March 17, 2021, and obtained through the Freedom of Information Act request, said an active duty service member in Germany stated to his cousin on Facebook, "I would join you, but my current tour is in Germany." The complaint said the service member's cousin was later arrested. So they're missing quite a chunk of the population by only focusing on insurrectionists. IDA researchers were offered to use START's comprehensive data set that more accurately reflected the state of the US military, but instead they chose to rely only on January 6th arrest figures. IDA was paid $900,000 for this report, by the way, and its spokesperson staunchly defended itself, saying that it is solidly based on the best data available at the time the work was conducted. But we know that that simply is not true. Researchers are seriously calling into question the legitimacy of this report for a few reasons. The IDA states that IDA found no evidence of participation in violent extremist events by DoD civilians or defense contractor employees, but AP obtained records showing multiple allegations about January 6th alone. For example, a contractor at the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center was called in to meetings from the protests on January 6th and has spread conspiracy theories, including QAnon, as well as others involving artificial intelligence and the DoD. There were also multiple cases of defense contractors accused of participation in the insurrection, including a Navy contractor who was a Nazi sympathizer and a former special forces soldier and a military contractor. So again, Sharon, it's very scary because these are the people who are not just defending our country, whatever it is they're doing in their time in the military, but they are enforcing whatever it is that the president would like them to enforce, right? So whenever you have a more volatile president at the helm, like a lot of times whenever you see these insurrections and coups and whatever happening in other countries, you think, okay, well, yeah, that one guy at the top is a little crazy, but who are all these people doing their bidding? They're nothing without their military or without their police or without, some kind of weaponry, some kind of force behind them. This is the force. And it's very disconcerting whenever the individuals making up that collective force are a little unhinged, to put it lightly. What do you think, Sharon?
Yeah, as I said, I think yesterday on Dr. Ritchie's show, this is a modern monarch that we have become. It's a modern monarch. And when you have people, what January 6th taught us was that these are your neighbors, okay? These are people, and there's more, as you mentioned, in the community, highly skilled, highly trained. Are we entering upon a time as Donald Trump stacks the deck with certain nominees and takes over these departments and destroys institutions as we know them? Are we nearing a time where the people who are loyal to him instead of the Constitution and Americans will follow and carry out what he wants? I keep hearing pundits say, well, he has to leave in 4 years. No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
He will do whatever we tolerate. You'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are willing to tolerate a lot because it's very easy to go against something, or it's very difficult to go against something. It's a lot easier to just say, it is what it is. We'll deal with it until, we can't anymore. But that level of tolerance just keeps increasing. I mean, look at the things that we're dealing with even today. 10 years ago, before Trump got here, it was mind blowing, the things he was saying and doing. And yet here we are today, and he says something crazy and it, we talk about it, but it's not anything new, or it's not even interesting, but
it's like people are waiting for someone to rescue us and not understanding that it has to be us again.
It has to be some kind of collective.
It has to be us. Yeah.
When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?